Hey guys, it's Jubble Jum. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed my content. I just found this game on Steam. It's called Contra Spem Spero or something like that. I'm not really too sure what it's about, but it's kind of giving me the same vibe as Last Report, which is the last video I made. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you go check it out. I'm coming off the back of losing 2 hours of footage on Alien Isolation, so if you'd like to see me tackle that game, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll eventually get back to it. Anyways, let's get started. The goddamn car broke down again. I did check all the parts before leaving. They were working fine then and are now, but it won't start. I can't just wait, not this time. Just in case I forget anything important, I'll use my journal and camera as always. Now I have to grab the backpack and go find some help. The essentials, my wallet, driver's license, and flashlight are in my pockets. The gas station shouldn't be too far from here. I remember that. I decided to go down the road. The road disappeared. I was walking straight forward without turning, and it vanished right under my feet, replaced by bare ground. The moment I realized that, I headed back, but still couldn't find it. I'm surrounded by trees. It looks like I got deep into a forest. Some glowing orange eyes have been following me for a while. If it's an animal, that's a really big one, and I don't want to get to know it better. There's no point in staying in one place either. I decided to... Definitely not gonna scream. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to get some rest if I see something looking back at me. I'm gonna keep walking. Whoa. I decided to proceed deeper into the forest. After wandering around for a while, I happened to find a flare gun, as if purposefully hidden between some roots that I tripped over. Could someone actually leave it here? Why? I took it in case there were also flares to be found somewhere nearby. I feel tired already. The path I'd been following had also disappeared. No sign of it anywhere. Night has come, the darkness is overwhelming, and the reading light doesn't quite help. I can't believe this forest was always this deep. There's not much I can do right now. So I just got a flare gun. I got 50 pictures I can take. Some water, a pocket knife, and a flare gun, okay? I continued walking but couldn't see a damn thing. Even if there were anything useful, I wouldn't notice it. My main focus was not to trip over again and die early. So I moved very slowly and was getting nowhere. I kept walking anyway. The fatigue's almost palpable. I don't understand why it got so bad so quickly. Nothing changed around me. Maybe I should wait until morning. What in the actual hell was that? The moment I let my guard down, I heard some screeching. Had to run away blindly, and ended up losing a thing or two. And I realized exactly which things those were. I was about ready to lose my mind. If I can't find them later, I swear to God. I decided to examine everything. The forest is full of wild animals. It feels as if my every move is being watched. I changed my mind about staying in one place. It may be too dangerous, especially in such a conspicuous one. How ironic. I find myself in a clearing. Wish the road were right behind that tree line. I think I see someone standing next to it, but I'm not sure if they're facing my way. If I call out, this person won't be the only... What? The only one to know my location. I got an idea. Flash may attract their attention. I decided to take a photo. It did. It looked like they waved at me. When I got closer as carefully as I could not to make too much noise, the silhouette became more vague. I asked in a whisper if they knew how to get out of here. There was no response. I'll glance at that photo to make sure I didn't imagine things, and am not talking to a human-shaped tree snag. I decided to look at the photo. Oh shit. New one. You're gonna die in here, fool. You're gonna die. He's mine. Fresh meat. Don't run. Pointless. Shush. Boss is here. This cannot be happening. I decided to... I'm gonna fucking run. Should have wished for a better ending. Hold up, hold up, hold up. Is there a way I can continue? Okay. I decided to take a photo. I looked at the photo. And maybe I can fight. What good would passing out do me if I die from either running away or fighting? Okay. Alright, so I guess passing out was the correct answer. And, I guess playing dead seemed to work. I decided to, well, I didn't. I just passed out. When I regained consciousness, I still couldn't understand what happened exactly. What was that? The last thing I saw was those orange eyes I had already spotted earlier. I felt too scared and weightless to do anything. An old man brought me back to my senses. He said something about being trapped in this forest for a long time too, but I didn't. Actually, I don't know if I can believe myself at the moment. He's leading me somewhere where it's always safe. I had no choice but to follow. He said they'd come back if I refused, and also commended my ability to deftly record things in any conditions. I'm well aware of its value. Still, I prefer to think events through before writing them down, even if sometimes it's even more complicated than doing that at once. I decided to follow the old man. We reached camp. The tents here are obviously handmade, but look neat. The man introduced himself as Rob, gave me a folded paper sheet and said, "Here, take the thing. Maybe you'll find a better use for it than I did. Don't forget your old man when you find a way out of here, eh?" Sure hope you will. There was another one inside, but empty. First one turned out to be a shabby hand-drawn map. Did he really depict the forest in it? I should use my cam more often, to have at least some idea of my surroundings and check it. Hopefully. But not to overdo it. I still have only a few pieces of Polaroid photo paper left. I can just wait until morning. Not that I feel safe in the presence of another human. He's still a stranger after all. I decided to take a photo. When I took the photo, Rob got closer and said, "What you got there, a camera?" It looked like an owl to me. Star photos you have there, buddy. Your camera's flash, eh? I ain't seen one when you took me a picture. What? When you took me a picture? That's the way light works here. Or doesn't. Who knows? Depends on what the forest wants you to notice. That would come in handy, so cling to that thing. I doubt his ability to give valuable advice, but I'll keep it in mind. Moreover, the thing was too expensive to buy and not cling to now. I decided I'm gonna get some sleep. I decided to sleep until morning in one of the tents. Rob obligingly pointed out, maybe this place won't be so gloomy in the daylight, and I'll be able to get out faster. When morning came, there was no light. Pitch darkness, just as before, covered everything around me. Rob was sleeping near the fire. I woke him up and asked what was going on. He said, "There's no light in my misery. Yours doesn't have it either?" And went back to sleep without further explanation. Guess I need to figure it out by myself for now. I decided to talk to Rob. Talk about the forest. I asked him about the forest. He said, "It's a cruel one. I was even younger than you are now when I got stuck in this prison of a forest. Can you imagine that? I never wanted to last so long when I was free, but something makes me hold on to life here. Still, it's nice to sometimes meet other folks here, even if they don't stay for quite as long. That's why I hope you'll be the one to finally find a way out and surely let me leave the place too. I don't want to die here, become one of them. What's wrong with this place? I asked him about the creatures I saw before passing out. He answered, right, some indeed call them creatures. You see, buddy, it's a lot of different folks in here, not only creatures. I call them pups personally, wicked pups. There are more clever ones, shadowy ones, those things in the sky, and those under the water, and here are friendly ones like you and I. Most of our kind just vanish so quickly you ain't get a chance to know them better. Luckily you ran into me so soon. I didn't dare object. I asked him about the camp. He answered, it's safe. I've never been attacked here. Maybe the fire's scaring them off? Too risky to check, so I keep it burning all the time, you see. I decided to ask him about himself. He answered, yep, it's me. Been stuck in this hell of a forest for centuries. That's for sure. I ain't getting younger, you see. It becomes difficult to keep searching for a way out. I haven't seen another human in a long, long time. Guess he will not be much of a help in getting out then. Alright, I decided to leave. Decided not to waste time and explore the forest further. As I was leaving the camp, Rob called out, since you're all set to go, mind bringing me my ladle? I can't stop thinking about it. Can't stir me no good apple soup with it. Why apple? 'Cause it's all you can find to eat in here, damn it. I lost it just near the next place marked on the map after my camp. You probably have better eyes, so I'm sure you can do that. Oh, and grab some wood. Though I have plenty in stock, I made sure of that. Chop chop. All these years, just like that. But be careful out there with the folks. They're everywhere. And return here to rest from time to time. You gotta keep your progress in mind, yeah? And it ain't possible with no good sleep. Unless you're keen on pointlessly making that same mistake over again. Not sure what that meant anyways. I'd better check the map now. Alright. That's camp. Where'd he find me? I was thinking it'd be like some sort of MS Paint thing, and I'd be able to like draw on whatever. Blank paper. Said I lost something, but I'm not too sure what. The map looks weird and awfully simplified. I'll see if it's accurate. Hope I'll be able to find my way back to camp when it's done. It took me some time to reach the supposed location. A dilapidated swing-like contraption lay under a tree. I soon realized it was some kind of broken animal trap. Sharp stakes chaotically stuck in the ground nearby only confirmed my guess. Now to find what I was asked, it'd be better to stick to certain tactics if I want to get out quickly and with extra help. Apart from the camp, the forest is pitch dark. I'd capture everything at once to avoid missing anything, but I have to manage my Polaroid paper. I don't know how much I'll need. Rob and those things definitely won't have any to lend me, will they? I decided to look around. I searched around, but finding anything in the dark was problematic. The old man wasn't joking about it. I decided to... I'm gonna take the photo. I'm gonna see if I can find the label. I decided to take a photo. Don't know how to explain it properly, but after going off, the flash from my camera seems to freeze in time, or create an invisible light source that continues to illuminate the surroundings, even if faintly, for much longer than it should. The nearest object stays visible to me somehow. I decided to look carefully. I soon spotted the label, almost glowing because of its metallic texture. It was weird to say the least, having a neck too wide for the bowl to be suitable for containing liquid. Handmade too? I also noticed a cage trap with something barely visible inside. It was closed, and there was a set of buttons on either side, likely used to unlock it, but I didn't know the right combination. I decided to leave. I left. Alright, I'll take a look at the map again. I don't think I'm gonna go back to the old man. This kind of feels like he set a trap for me. Something tells me he's like a cannibal or something. All those failed traps made me paranoid about sleeping into or stepping into any others that might also be present and still working around the forest. So I started at the ground, determined to notice the smallest change in its texture, until I did. It wasn't a trap, however, but numerous thin trails lacking grass as if something small had been dragged. I couldn't see how far. I decided to examine the trails. I crouched to examine the trails better. They led in different directions and were occasionally interrupted by shallow pits, the nature of which I couldn't identify. They were too neat to be dug manually. I decided to look around. I finally decided to look up and around. Can't say if it's important, but I found a set of dots nearly unnoticeable on a tree bark. What could it possibly be? I decided to put the journal down. What is that? After I took a photo, I noticed a battered paper sheet covered in sand under my feet saying, "I like digging holes and hiding things inside them. When I grow all the hope, I won't forget to find them." Also, a few pits among the trails had tiny wildflower heads placed inside. The rest, empty ones. Had only indentations of different kinds, round, square, and resembling small bottles. I decided to put something in the pit. I'm not gonna put Polaroid paper in there. See if maybe he can give me an apple. Rob was sitting near the fire as usual, except markedly gloomy this time. I asked him what was wrong and had to listen to a whole campfire story. "Here's this lake. I don't know what its problem is. I still visit sometimes as it's close to the camp, relatively. I always try to catch me some dinner. It's a perfect place for wildlife, all to no avail. Each bunny, birdie, or rodent always run past me and intentionally drowns itself in the water. Why not just let me catch them? I have no enemies among animals, but a man's gotta eat." One day, I even saw a dog jump in. Happens in mere seconds. Plop and gone, plop and gone. Leaving a poor old man with no dinner. Moreover, the bodies just disappear. No dinner at all. And can you imagine? No. I decided not to spend the ink for the complete version of his blabbing. I decided to talk to Rob. I asked Rob if he knew how to open the cage trap near the swings, since it was his doing. He said, "Of course I do, but I ain't got a clue now. In fact, I forgot that right after the trap finally caught something. Can you imagine? But I'm sure you'll crack it. You're a clever boy. Just listen to the heart." Useless. Here's his ladle. I emptied half my backpack trying to find the ladle, and when I finally did, Rob grabbed it out of my hand cheerfully and said, "Attaboy. I almost lost all hope by now, but you're a promising fellow. Look, there's another problem you absolutely have to help me with. I just want some apples, 5 more, so I can make some good soup. Bring them to me, or else I'll faint from this damned hunger. I won't be able to help you to get out of here. 5 apples? I don't remember seeing a single apple tree around here. I'll see what I can do." He suddenly pointed at the flare gun I found shortly after I got lost in this forest. "What are the odds? This is mine too. But no matter, you can have it if you wish." After all, I forgot it hid it there, so you brought it back to me. It's also broken. Thanks, I'll just leave it at the camp. Is it actually broken? Alright, I'm gonna get some sleep. Hide in the bushes aiming at something. I can't see. The fired bullet triggers a trapdoor, revealing a shallow pit with a detailed map of a way out of the forest. I lean in, tracing the path with my finger, trying to memorize it in case I lose the map. But I keep getting distracted and have to start over multiple times. When I finally reach its end, I realize that my finger is no longer on the map. It's leaving a long trail on the ground. I try to figure out what happened where I am, but all I can see are the countless trails around, each one left by me. I approached what appeared to be a simple, half-demolished building, its roof gone, and piles of bricks scattered across the floor. Despite the first impression, it turned out to be way more complex and crooked, with its uneven structure unnaturally extending straight into the thicket. When I stepped inside to check if I could find anything useful, something crunched loudly under my feet. It felt almost like stones, but sharper. I froze. It may be dangerous to go further, especially blindly. I have enough Polaroid paper to take another photo. I decided to take a photo. It was human bones. I stepped on one of the hundreds, fully covering the floor. Some still had flesh on them. I sprinted out immediately, thinking the culprit might be in the building. I didn't notice one in the darkness. Besides, I spotted something shiny among the remains when the flash illuminated them. But should I? If I don't see anything, yeah, I'm gonna check it. I took a closer look. Apparently it was palm-sized glass vial, hollow inside but entirely solid with no opening or crack or cap. I took it with me despite it being useless. I decided I'm gonna leave for now. I can come back later. And I'm gonna go back here. The vial. I put a vial in a pit and immediately it disappeared, sinking into the sand. Nothing else happened. Why would I even do that? Can I go back in here? And I decided to look around outside of the building, and by the entrance found nothing in particular. Except, I did notice the ground was trampled in several different directions, leading to the woods. I decided to leave. Ooh! I'm moving through yet another cluster of trees, except these appear to be all thin, with leaves occupying their top only. The sky's barely visible here as well. Nothing. What was that sound? Like an animal roar, painful one. I carefully followed the source. The poor thing is bent to the ground, groaning quietly. It's not so big, and I can't quite tell what kind of animal it is. To make sure before approaching it, I decided to... Oh, shit, what the fuck was that? Ugh, God, no, anything but that. It wasn't an animal. It resembles a creature I saw earlier. It has long, thin tail. Its body is unevenly covered with fur. The torso is dripping with something black, and one of its horns seemed to be broken. Slower jaw. I can't see it. Words appeared on the photo when I took it. I didn't immediately understand what that was. I decided to help it. Yeah. Help. Another gullible. What are these photos? You one lucky bastard to be able to hear me, so my bad. It gets worse and I need souls to control myself. You do too, to escape. Bring 5 from the lake. I decided to get closer and that fucking dipshit just jumped up and took a chunk out of me, backing away immediately after. I feel dizzy. It's difficult to understand that the little demon is trying to say. He seems interested in my journal, too. Watching me closely as I write this down, and is probably as well surprised as I am by the fact I hear him speaking using my photos and not my ears. I could ask for the details, but if the black space on the Polaroid runs out, I might need to take another photo. I'm gonna try to talk to him a little. Yet he shook his head when I tried to ask him something and seemed to be in a hurry. When I was ready to leave, he passed me a handful of palm-sized glass vials, hollow inside, but entirely solid with no opening or cap. Extremely dirty ones. I wonder if they were used for obtaining the souls or whatever he was talking about. I didn't get to ask him that. He's already gone where I came from. I don't see anything notable around except for a trail of blood starting where LD was lying and heading behind the bushes. I decided to leave. I left. That's a little funky. Can talk to demons through pictures slash. Okay. Well, is this where he lives? Bring me 5 from the lake. I think I'm gonna go get some sleep. I asked Rob if he knew something about the little demon I ran into and described his appearance. Rob said, "They're no good, scary things. This one's a spoiled, noisy pup. Always trying to get him attention, but I'd never deal with him." Alright, he's not very talkative right now. Okay, so the lake is occupied. So what's the next step? It doesn't look like I have any exclamation points here right now. I had to click to leave. I'm gonna talk to him. What's the matter? I don't bite. Mostly. I returned to the ruined building and noticed LD beside it, easily recognizable by the silhouette of his horns. When he approached, I stepped back reflexively. He was quite different from how I remember him. First time we met, he barely reached my shoulder. Now he was looking at me from up high. It did look more threatening. but he still clearly expected me to help him with the souls, and so had no intention of hurting me, I believed. I hesitated to ask him about the sudden change in appearance, and a moment later, he looked just as he had before anyway. You're not scared? No, in my crazy breakdown? Finally, I was like you one day. Now I'm what you see I am. You know, like, these sentences make me think that maybe the creators aren't, like their first language isn't English, but that's okay. Anyways, that's just a tangent. It's just sometimes the structure is a little strange when it comes to the sentences. I asked him about himself, which he seemingly didn't expect. I explained that I pretty much accepted I went crazy the moment I saw him again, but I was curious about what he was exactly. I asked him about the souls thing. For you, it's a key to escape. Sooner you master them, higher your chance. You'll see, in my case, it's a cure for my sick thoughts. Well, okay. My sick, twisted mind. To me, crazy fries are just normal fries. At first, the path ahead was eerily empty and devoid of any particular features. Trying to make out the scribbles, I used the map repeatedly to check I was walking right. Soon, one of the next marks was explained to me by a series of balanced stones that started appearing one by one on both sides of me. They were flat pebbles, forming small, thin towers scattered around. Then I reached a natural arc formed from the interlocking branches of towering trees, as if deliberately twisting into place. An end of the rope wrapped around one of them was hanging down invitingly. I could reach it if I jumped. I decided to pull the rope. Probably expecting something extraordinary to happen, I decided to pull the rope. Most of it remained tightly fixed above. Well, if I ever need one, I could return there and cut some off. My chest began to hurt. I thought maybe it was caused by yet another supernatural force, disturbed by my actions, but no, I was simply hungry. I hadn't eaten for days, long before I got in this forest. Damn the stress. Things get worse. I could always check my backpack for some food. That is, if I ever find something substantial to eat. I decided to leave. I always feel like somebody is watching me. Time feels distorted in this forest. The sky's still dark, just like when I got here, already growing close to one another. The trees around me became increasingly bent to the point where their branches and even trunks intertwined, as if bowing in a dance. In the end, they formed a fairly steep climb, which was the only way to proceed. It had some gaps I couldn't see through because of the dense foliage. I decided to avoid the gaps. Decided to avoid them not to be stuck there forever. If any of my limbs slipped right in, I couldn't get it out. Moving up was less challenging than I initially expected, but the maneuvering did make it worse. Disorderly branches constantly poked my backpack until my water bottle fell from me. Plunging into the leaves and falling on the ground, I couldn't see behind them, let alone reach it. Soon I was able to walk as the treetops leveled out. I decided to take a photo. I wonder if there's something hidden underneath. All the leaves prevent me from confirming or denying it, and the flash wasn't enough to dispel the darkness between them for some reason. I decided to leave. I can't say if it was an illusion, fault of my inattention or memory. Before I knew that, the trees under my feet were in fact replaced by ground. The thought made my head spin. I continued walking. To top it all off, it started raining. I tried to concentrate on my surroundings and ignore the fact that I was soaked as well as the noise around me. In an instant, a haunting sense of someone else's presence struck me. I turned around abruptly, trying to determine its source, and almost immediately a gaze of glowing orange eyes met mine. The massive silhouette of their owner, standing motionlessly, towered over me even from a distance. I couldn't help but smack the cam shutter button immediately to capture it. I decided to take a photo. So we meet. Speak to me if you will. There are no limits to my words. However, I do believe you are aware of those your memory has. I knew it was another whatever this thing is. It looks moth-like, but those antennae and the cloak or wings, I'm not sure. It has 3 eyes and a face resembling a bony mask with an unnaturally wide mouth. I can't say if it's really friendly or just pretending to be. I decided to talk to Moth. I knew it was... Okay, what? So we meet. Speak to me if you will. There are no... Yeah, okay. Oh, there it is. I asked him about LD. He approved he was a human before turning into the creature he is now. He is a creature, the former human transformed after his death in accordance with one of the 2 possible outcomes. Not the one he expected or wanted, that is for sure. I decided to ask him about himself. Apparently he wants neither to help me nor to kill me, but I'm sure I could use any information he might share. I'm not here to help you, as you were doomed the moment Forrest decided so. Yet I am here to observe your struggle, reasonable or not, until the moment you die at the hands of another. I asked him if he knew anything about how I could escape this place. He told me to forget the possibility. I'm not giving up just yet. What could a man like you possibly change in the established cycle? They all made decisions according to their own moral compass. You do, you die, and Forrest claims another victim. I merely tell you the truth. It is your choice to accept or deny it. There's no escape. Am I talking to Redditor? I think I'm gonna give him a Redditor voice. I tried to ask him about the effect I feel after talking to LD, but couldn't quite explain it. He stopped me mid-sentence. He said it's called spiritism. Don't know why. I don't feel it being affected by him. You humans adore attributing terms to things you do not understand, so let me simplify it for you. The others call it spiritualism. The impact you may get from dealing with the dead, the higher it is, the more your physical body dissolves. The last stage is death, in case you did not figure that out. Let me check how much polar... I got 39. I am burning through that shit so quick. I decided to leave. He insisted that he accompany me, and I couldn't risk refusing the offer, so we walked side by side. His presence made me anxious, but not as much as the option of being killed by someone who I couldn't even try to convince not to. Strangely, his words disappear and are replaced with new ones on the Polaroids, unlike LD's. Venturing further into the forest, we came across a small open space, its ground completely covered by something glistening. The amount of moonlight was not enough for me to distinguish what that was exactly, but it looked like thick vines at first. When I got closer, those turned out to be whole piles of snakes, which caused me to immediately step away, bumping my back against the damn overgrown moth, who, surprisingly, hadn't yet killed me by then. I almost forgot he was there in all the silence. I decided to check the photo of moth. To not be afraid, we seemed to hold no interest to them. Untie a snake. Remember that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. You may need this. I reached for one when Moth suddenly stopped me with his vast hand, offering a tiny glass bottle filled with liquid in another. As I picked up the snake, I understood it was already dead. I carefully untied it anyway. I can't think of anything that could have caused this. I decided to take a photo. Not a single one of the snakes is moving here. They seem frozen, their heads turned to the side and eyes peering at the sky. I reflexively lifted mine too, but noticed nothing unusual up there. I decided to leave. Until we meet again. I decided to leave. Moth nodded slightly and stayed where he was so I could calm down a bit, knowing he was finally off my back. Kinda want to stay with Moth. I don't think I'd be safe with him, but like, I don't know about staying with Rob. I slid to the next marked on the map. On a carpet of bent stems, roots, and grass, the latter clung persistently to my clothes, but I didn't attach much importance to them. At the bottom of the funnel-like space, there happened to be a freshly fallen tree, which I'm using now as a stopping point to write this down. I decided to look around the tree. And my hand brushed against the velvet texture of a hat lying under the vegetation. I couldn't get a good look at it. I decided to search the tree crown. I decided to check the tree crown and search through the branches before pulling out a bird's nest full of eggs. I took it with me to bring to camp so Rob could look after the yet unhatched nestling while I was gone. And take a photo. It's still working. After I take a photo, the light stays. Well, in the air, around. How do I explain this? I decided to examine the hat. I examined the find carefully. It was a small old black hat, decorated with 2 fake roses and a pin with the precious blue stone. I decided to leave. Alright, maybe we can make some eggs. Rob said, if you want to sleep, go for it. I'll still be here when you wake up. Hopefully staying here won't last too long since we're searching for a way out, right? I handed Rob the bird's nest found near the fallen tree and asked him to look after it since he usually stays at the camp, unlike me. He placed it on one of the boxes and said, I'll take care of them, alright? I feel like he's gonna eat them. I asked Rob what he knew about Moth. He shook his head and said, well, ain't that one's a menacing... What? Well, ain't that one's a menacing fellow. Can't find a proper slipper against a bug that big. Nothing else. Souls. I asked Rob what souls were and how to master them. He looked at me concerned and said, the pup tucked to you, didn't he? And ain't no good listening to him. Twisted mind that one has. About sanity. I asked Rob about spiritism, except I explained it to him. In other words, he said, should have reminded me earlier, the thing's dangerous. That's why you don't want to speak to the folks. They're pulling the mind out of you. Not every one of them, of course, but the most. And if there's no speaking to hurt your mind, there are still sharp claws and teeth to hurt your body. Get some sleep. I walked through the forest with Moth, passing a cliff, a swamp, and moving through thorny plants. I feel safe as long as he's near, but it keeps disappearing and returning. A clearing full of tall grass and bushes warns me about snakes before disappearing again. Can't see anything under my feet at first. When I finally make out the glare of scales and snake eyes surrounding me, I dash to climb a tree. Each one breaks under my weight until I find one sturdy enough. Before long, something wraps around my arm and I fall into the snakes below. Instead of hitting the ground, I land in a dark, damp place. I'm trying to move as the space brightens. I'm a fang of a giant snake, biting into thick, impenetrable skin. With each crunch, the snake fails and I shatter piece by piece. I'm gonna check up on Moth. I'll try to ask him about the effects. Okay. I asked him about Rob. He appears to be annoyed that he wants to escape the forest. An old fool that is still clinging to the hope of escaping. What a waste of time. Alright, that's all I can do with him for right now. The wind picked up, carrying a deep, prolonged melody that overlapped with muffled pounding from somewhere below, like rain on the roof, but each time heard from a different side. I found myself among the dead trunks of a grove similar to others I had already encountered on my way, except here, the trees were especially old, marked by cavities which were the source of those ringing sounds. When gusts of wind came through them, they responded with a shaky hum. I decided to look around. I tried to find something worthwhile. At some point, out of the corner of my eye, I saw one of the distant trees instantly and silently vanish into thin air. I'm still confused by my reaction. I felt strangely indifferent the entire time. I was there, so I didn't pay the slightest attention to that. Instead, it was drawn to a wet paper sheet lying on the ground. I decided to put the journal down. Where once was lying silent's wounded heart of sorrow, full aspiring thus to feel alive embedded deep within. A seemingly incomplete poem was written on it. I doubted its value but wrote it down in a separate journal section. Anyway, on the previously empty folded paper sheet Rob gave me earlier, to be exact, for some reason, the ink just wouldn't stay on the page beside it. I decided to listen to the rhythm of rain. Am I gonna have to keep track of this? Let me take a photo. The place looks lifeless. Its gray surroundings pointlessly wobble under the unchanging night sky. If it rains, I have no place to take shelter. The camp's too far to make it back quickly enough. The next place was reminiscent of a dull hollow, despite the slopes being not so steep or large enough to belong to one. At their base, where I was, there were no trees to the very horizon, or at least I couldn't see them. I invariably bumped into what I believed to be tree trunks every time I started to budge. It reeked of autumn. Abundant falling leaves swirled around, disorienting me even more. I decided to look around. I decided to take the risk and look around the place. Sadly, among all the invisible trees, I didn't find a single invisible hint concerning how the fuck I was supposed to leave this forest behind at long last. But then I kicked something, moving through a pile of dry leaves, and that something turned out to be a neat gun and 2 full magazines for it, all that carefully wrapped in a cloth. I'd recognize it anywhere, Smith & Wesson, model 39-2. I remember those being fresh off the market. I took it with me, of course. I didn't question how the gun could have ended up there then. I don't question it now. It's not what matters most. I decided to take a photo. So my body wouldn't suffer through any more bruises. But it was of no help. There are no trees in this hollow, but it doesn't prevent me from sensing their not so obvious yet definite presence. As for the leaves, it's like they're falling from the sky instead of rain. I also noticed a whole lot of ants circling on the ground here and there. Good thing I did that before crushing those of them still alive. I decided to leave. Feeling my way out of the hollow, I proceeded. Alright, a building. Following the map gets pretty tricky. I mainly use the gaps between treetops to navigate between the places, listing the areas where the sky is clearly, barely, and not at all visible, and arranging them in the right order to recall on the way back. All I can see aside from that is a bunch of pitch black silhouettes and shapes almost all the time. I noticed one resembling another building. When I got closer, it turned out to be an oddly looking long abandoned house with a porch and everything. At that point, I was sure I could stumble across anything here, as if the forest had trapped not only people, but whole houses, cities, or whatever. I walked in and all the sounds died away. The place is all dusty. The boards are uncannily dry and pointy. There's someone standing right in front of me. I decided to take a photo. Ooh, do I know you? God fucking damn it. Are those things getting uglier on purpose? Well, this one is tall and slim and extremely pale with the long ghostly hood descending evenly over his body. The flash was not enough to illuminate the lower part of his face. Neck and abdomen, the vague, dark clothing draped over his hips, fully covered his legs. It's him reaching the very floor. I decided to answer, yeah. Hey, bro, chill out. I decided to answer his question positively, and it was hell of a stupid move to make as this fucking thing almost clawed my face off. Despite his ghostly appearance, he's damn right tangible enough, and to think it's the second time I got my ass kicked? How the fuck am I supposed to predict these demons' actions? This one seems to have a particular interest in souls too. Do I know you? Must I really teach you not to lie to me? Still, we could help each other. If you get souls, give them to me. Give them to me only, always. It is the only right decision to make. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? They're literally human souls. To capture them, you need only awareness and vials. The cursed things are automatic trap, no matter who the holder is. I have no idea what he is. He means no harm, but provides little utility. Do not ignore him, nevertheless. Little demon, huh? Fitting name, however. Surely he got to you sooner than you came across me. Isn't it so? Surely he tried to convince you to give souls to him. That bastard's not the one you should be listening to. I'll be honest, I'm not aware of his exact intentions, but I am certain those can't be good. Why would yours be any better? I asked him about LD. He suddenly tensed up, so I took a few steps back, expecting an attack. But the distance between us stayed the same somehow, and he just let me understand that they didn't get along. Okay. Never mind. Search the house. The concentration of gloomy beings in my life was high enough by that time, so I decided to take a look around the house. Can't say it was successful. The slim one glared at me so menacingly that I gave up after the first step, not too eager to make him any angrier than he already seemed to be. I decided to leave. Okay, so those are the main characters, I believe, that I can talk to. I think I'm gonna go for some eggs. I asked Rob what he knew about Slim. After thinking a little, he said, "Ain't sure about that one. You keep befriending all kinds of folks instead of seeking a way out, aren't you?" Vials. I asked Rob about soul vials. He waved his arms and said, "I knew those pups were up to something deadly. Don't you tell me you brought some of those bottles with you. You crazy. What if my soul gets trapped? Didn't you think about that?" I'm gonna get some sleep. Sleep off some of this insanity. I finally escaped. The gas station, once out of reach, stands right in front of me now. Realizing that nothing holds me back anymore, I slowly walk toward it. But with every step, it becomes more difficult. Fear creeps up to my spine, growing heavier till I can no longer move. Frozen in place, I watch vegetation overgrow. The surrounding trees pierce the station, tearing it apart. A creature run past on all fours without even noticing my body. I'm so very tired. Worst has no end. I'm gonna go talk to Moth. I decided to talk to Moth. Each one of the photographs, a puzzle piece to the enigma of the forest. Though they serve as your instrument to hear the unfortunates, your camera behaves, for the most part, in an ordinary manner. Are you certain that journal of yours is truly yours? Do not mind me, merely being curious. I asked him about Slim. He had proved he was a human before turning into an entity, and said he can't leave the house until he gains enough strength. He is an entity, former human transformed after his death in accordance with one of the two possible outcomes. Unlucky. Most entities are granted higher intelligence, yet unable to leave their transformation place until gaining enough strength. I asked him about the other creatures this forest is teeming with. Do not judge them too harshly. Once they seek your attention, what else does one have to do? Being damned, if not trying to have some fun. When the time comes, you will understand. I asked him about the vials. Looks like I can find them anywhere, but should I really? Truth be told, even I do not know where exactly these come from. They appear to be filled, and it just works. Choose wisely who you give them to if you care about your future here. Oops. I asked him about souls, but he didn't tell me much. Instead, I was supposed to find out the details myself. That is what will become of you in the end if you remain unwilling to accept the fact. Your fate afterward will not be enviable. The rest... The rest is not for me to say. Your outcome depends on how you choose to manage them. So make sure to learn what you can about them first before jumping to conclusions. I asked what he could tell me about the forest. Didn't understand a thing he said. Must say, I will never cease to be amazed by the variety of wonders the universe provides us all with. It is simply that not everyone is able to observe and appreciate them. Forest is a self-replenishable vault for them. Would you not agree? Belongs to nobody. Responsible but for one thing, existing. Reality itself shifts constantly here. It tends to change what is intruding, complementing the incomplete. Shedding the perfection. I could talk about it all day, but it is always night, huh? Whoa, buddy. What was that? Okay. Let's keep things moving along. I admit I'm scared. Fear subsides as I'm confronted with something new. I'm not crazy, I don't understand what's happening, yet all this whining is not what I'm supposed to write down. I have to record only those things I want to remember and focus on. The events happening to me that may be worth attention, but how can I even be sure that any of this is real? I see things that simply cannot be. Maybe it's the fatigue, or more likely another trick this damn place has for me. But my head spins, and it only gets worse. Weirdly enough, the surroundings look as usual, just awfully repetitive. At some point, a fox hastily crossed the path and, surprised by my presence, dropped a small wooden sign behind. I decided to pick up the sign. But as I walked closer, it somehow appeared to be even further away from me than before. One couldn't possibly handle such a rapid change of perspective without falling. I decided to pick up the sign again. I tried to get the sign again, but wasn't successful all the same. I kept drifting away with each attempt to reach it. And then the idea came to mind. Instead of walking toward it, I started to walk backwards. The sign actually drew near, close enough to see what was written on it. A set of numbers, 23, 15, 18, 4. 23, 15, 18, 4. I decided to look around. I couldn't. The around was escaping me, shifting and receding constantly with my every step. I decided to leave. I braced myself and hurried forward. It was easier to do while looking down rather than to the sides. I was nearly knocked off my feet with fear when countless clusters of glowing orange eyes suddenly appeared before me. I thought it was a large gathering of moth lookalikes ready to lash out at any moment, except those were only perfectly round mushroom caps, all facing me no matter where they were grown from. And they were, in fact, growing everywhere. Some burst under my steps. The air was musty, probably because of the spores polluting it. Didn't know if those were dangerous, but I thought it would be best to find something to cover my face with before exploring the place. God, that was a very long sentence. Let me reread that. But I thought it would be best to find something to cover my face with before exploring the place. I want to see what this place looks like. Ooh, pretty. The roots of massive trees, their trunks as well as the ground, are all dotted with mushrooms. I doubt there's anything else that could be useful. I decided to search the place anyways. I decided to look around for a bit but didn't find anything except for the mushrooms. I believed they could come in handy, but I shouldn't have stayed there any longer. My thoughts were progressively becoming more and more clouded. I decided to pick the mushrooms. Why am I choosing everything wrong? I'm like a little kid running through the forest, man. Like, why did I choose to touch the mushrooms in a supernatural place? When I started to pick them, my mind went completely blank. The next thing I knew, I was lying face down, slightly away from the path, where there were none, without any in my backpack too. I really should find a way to protect myself from the spores. I decided to leave. It was no easier to cross the next one either. First, my attention was caught by the gurgling sounds coming from the puddles of black, viscous liquid flowing down the tree trunks. From somewhere above, their branches were almost leafless, yet made the sky barely visible. I decided to leave it be. I decided to play it smart and didn't do a thing. Maybe I'll change my mind next time I return here. I decided to leave. The lake. As I approached the lake, I heard a guttural roar behind me, rapidly growing louder as it got closer. It hit me then that I had completely forgotten to consider water might attract not just animals, but deadly predators, typically found in large wild forests. I spun around only to confirm my chance to act carefully and avoid getting hurt more than I deserved. Hurt more than I deserved was blown. A huge bear was charging straight at me. I decided to jump away, hoping it would run past me, and it did. The bear dived straight into the water and disappeared under its surface after a few seconds. The scene shook me. That all felt like a distant memory, hastily fading away even then. I decided to approach the lake. I thought that must have been the lake the little demon was talking about. I walked up to the water and felt my backpack grow heavy. One of the vials changed. Was the soul captured in it? I wasn't sure. I didn't do anything to make it happen. I knew nothing about it then. I examined the vial closely and had expected it to be filled with something glowing, or at least slight in appearance. But its contents were pitch black and smoky, reminiscent of the silhouettes surrounding me, which had vanished before I could catch a clear glimpse of them. I decided to capture more souls. I searched for more, but there were none left. Maybe I could return here later. Both LD and Slim appear eager to get their hands on them. If they really know how to escape this place, maybe I should give this one away too. Since when do I listen to some beings beyond my comprehension anyways? God, what is going on with my reading? Since when do I listen to some beings beyond my comprehension anyways? Relying on a crazy old man's help doesn't seem an appealing option to me either. That damn moth, what's his problem? I already spent too much time wandering around. I have to make up my mind at some point. Nothing seems off here. I have no idea what could have lured the bear in. What about souls? Could humans be susceptible to the things as well? I feel fine for now. Decided to leave. I came across a medium-sized grove where the treetops were broken off in a neat diagonal line, starting with the tallest trees and ending with some lying on the ground. The cause was nowhere to be seen. Unlike Moth, who settled on a log nearby, still twice my height, even while sitting down, he was contemplating something. I was obviously not able to see. I'm pretty sure by now he's fucking omnipresent. What's up, Moth? I decided to talk to him. He said not to avert my eyes from the truth or else I'd be doomed or something like that. Can't remember everything. Deep and trapped, those rejecting evident signs forest affords. Should you be curious, soul, employ your eyes to their fullest, but never avert them from the truth. I took a look around. Despite all the mess, organic or not, I couldn't find anything useful. Just pieces of wood, burnt grass, plastic, and metal. After taking a photo, I noticed an untouched case hidden under the debris of similar cases, emptied and damaged almost beyond recognition, in a rocky structure further ahead. I decided to check the case. I opened the case. Luckily, it was easy enough. Apart from useless, soaked wet paper sheets, there were two useless rotting passports, an Austrian and an Italian one, and some vials. What kind of aircraft crashed here? Decided to examine the structure. It was not an aircraft. The rocky structure was an entrance to a mine. The way further in was blocked by its collapsed walls, with the lone cart standing in front of the debris. Something inside it was making noises, like an object being repeatedly dragged along the wood. I decided to leave. My footsteps grew silent. and I almost felt weight and I felt almost weightless as the soil and everything around me gradually became covered in moss. It'd be a nice place to rest if only it weren't for the constant crying. It came from all sides, and I could never determine its source. I don't want to remember that I'm confused or scared, but I am. I'm not. I'm not confused and not scared. If I want to escape, I have to play along with what this forest offers me. I don't care how weird these things might get. I decided to keep walking. All of a sudden, the black fog permeating the place rose higher above the ground, forming an elongated smoky cloud and opening my backpack. I managed to react before it could snatch anything and it flew away. I'm starting to get sick of this. I decided to look around even though my vision was blurry. For some reason, that's exactly why I tripped over a piece of wood. I almost wasn't mad about the fall. It was at least mildly useful. When I lifted the log, I found a sheet of paper with a pencil sketch of some trees. A sentence had been neatly torn from it. La tarde aquí y ahora. I decided to... Why is laying down option? Where once was lying, silence, wounded heart, sorrowful, aspiring, thus to feel alive, embedded deep within. That's the poem we saw earlier, isn't it? Twenty-three, 15, 18, 4. I don't get it. These prime numbers or something? Nah. Let me take a photo and leave. Moss everywhere, nothing else. I jumped as someone crawled out from under a layer of it and immediately turned it back, suddenly aware of my presence. When he waved at me eagerly, I understood it was LD. Decided to talk to LD. Big bad cloud tried to take your stuff. Sometimes it's the other way around. You should try and share some with me later. Of course, that's what friends do, right? Took a photo of him to see what he had to say. Apparently he thought I should try robbing the fog in return. Then he patted me on the shoulder with his surprisingly heavy hand and rushed off. I decided to leave. I'm not about to listen to some bad influence. What the hell? Part of the forest lay bathed in bluish shades. Beads of water were forming on the grass and the trees barked slowly, soaring into the sky. Ground under one of the trees, a large weeping willow seemed to be dry. I decided to look around. in the darkness, nothing useful. The water's cold and pretty tasty. Decided to take a photo. There are some distinct bushes with small dark berries among the grass. I didn't pick any, unsure if they were safe to eat. I decided to take cover under the willow. I decided to shelter myself from all the water drops under the willow. As I approached it, I crushed something underneath my foot. It was a small mirror. Thought it must have been there for a reason. I decided to put the journal down. Ooh. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Let's do all the corner pieces first. Ta-da! Luckily, it could still be reconstructed. As I lifted it, I noticed a hollow in the willow under the corner of my eye. It was empty all the way up to the treetop, so I placed the mirror inside. The reflection illuminated an inscription scratched into the bark. It had been written backward originally, but in the mirror it read, "Where trees grow tall and nothing blocks the view to see the picture fully. Entangle the accessible and ignore the words teaching to wake the sleeping." I decided to leave. There should be some more riddles now, maybe? No? started going past the willow to train. The vegetation grew thicker and taller as I went on. The smell of the damp earth and decay grew stronger too. In the end, I saw a structure resembling some sort of ancient temple in front of me. Something flickered inside. I decided to take a photo. Trying to capture the entire building, I stood near the entrance and took a photo. My guess was correct. The flash illuminated everything within the frame, even objects hidden behind the others. Vines grew between almost every brick of the temple, both inside and outside, as if trying to cover it completely. I decided to look around. I looked around the temple and noticed numerous Polaroids scattered across the ground. When I gathered them, it became clear that they were fragments of a single, complete picture. I decided to put the journal down. Alright, so it's still not solved. What do I have to do to solve it? I don't think I get it. Alright, I'm gonna explore the temple for right now. Now, it wasn't as dark inside, and I noticed the vines had all grown toward one direction, deeper into the temple's interior. I decided to follow the vines. Followed the vines, and a glint of light caught my eye again. It came from the top of an archway and vanished the moment I discovered it. A leather-bound journal was lying there, quite similar to mine. I decided to put the journal down. What? Oh, I gave it a shot and climbed up to get the journal, but the damn bricks were slippery and loose, and I fell. I decided to try and get the journal again. Alright, so, what? Okay. I'm gonna continue. Where? Oh my god, I lost so much progress. Rob said, bizarre dream I had last night. Something about eating 3 watermelons? What a fever I had afterwards. Never mind, I decided to get some sleep. I hear a heated argument, swearing followed by screaming. Among the voices, one is my own. I refuse to grasp the reason. It always lingers in the back of my mind, but I focus only on the bigger picture. I leave the high rise, slamming the door so hard the glass shatters. The entire building follows, breaking into shards, piercing the space around me. Blackness seeps through the cracks as if following down a wall, revealing the forest beyond. I don't have time to glimpse the fading city. I'm blinded by the noise. I've been drowning in it for a long time. I see a bright flash. I decided to leave. Whoa, what? Okay. I'm gonna head to the temple. Yeah. I decided to look around the temple for a bit and ended up in a trap, whatever that pointy thing was, when the actual hell would set it. To my surprise, right after that, an apple rolled to my feet, out of nowhere. Guess I deserved it. This joke of a fruit. I decided to take a photo, right? Tracing to capture the entire building, I stood near the entrance and took a photo. My guess was correct. The flash illuminated everything within the frame, even objects hidden behind others. Vines grew between almost every brick of the temple, both inside and outside, as if trying to cover it completely. I decided to... Why would I trigger the trap again? Look around. I looked around the temple and noticed numerous Polaroids scattered across the ground. When I gathered them, it became clear that they were fragments of a single complete picture. And now, I'm gonna enter the temple. Follow the vines, leave. Okay, I guess I can keep going. Found myself at the base of a hill, way sooner than intended. There wasn't the slightest indication on the map that the temple stood right before a precipice. I've fallen and I can't get back up. No idea how I'll do it, but, well, that's a problem for my future self to worry about. I can barely make out large cloth tangled with natural debris on the ground. Examined the debris. I tried to identify what it was and saw that the cloth was actually one of the old collapsed tents. How old? I'm not sure. I doubt any attempt at deduction makes sense in here. If it's another camp, there's definitely a chance to find something useful. I decided to take a photo. Now that it's slightly less dark, I could look around for any traces of those who, for some reason, abandoned this place. I decided to search the tents. I searched the tents. For a moment, I was ready to give up trying because of the degree of the mess. But after a few additional splinters to my hand, I sensed a glass texture against my skin. Among the pieces of some shattered vials, I found a letter. I decided to put the journal down. I'm sorry I left before your return. I'm writing this to let you know that I love you and I miss you. I really, really want you to come back, and I'm sorry I didn't wait for you. And I know you're angry, but when you read this, can you please come back? I love you and I miss you. Please come back. I searched around as carefully as possible, making sure to avoid anything sharp enough to pierce my shoes. To my surprise, I stopped just an inch away from the bear trap. Partially hidden under the debris, I triggered it with a log, and it left it the way just in case. I see. I left. I'm gonna make my way back to Rob. See if he has anything to say. I'm driving his car with him sleeping in the seat next to me. The road stretches through empty fields, bathed in the cold dawn light. The radio crackles loudly, the sound more reminiscent of someone being strangled. I listen until the car stops. I step out. Something grabs my leg and drags me face down along the asphalt. It releases me in the forest. I sit up, picturing my damaged face. When I reach for it, it falls into my hands and crumbles. I see Slim sitting by the fire. I move toward him, but sprouts erupt from the ground, racing ahead. Some entangle and pin me to a tree. Slim and the camper torn to pieces in an instant. I fall to my knees and realize there was never a tree or sprouts restraining me, only the grip of my own hands bruising my skin. I was standing still the whole time. Alright, Rob, see you later. Ugh. Further ahead, even stranger things were happening. Pieces of soil and fallen leaves hovered slightly above the ground, drifting in one direction. In contrast, I felt too heavy. Something was wrong, and I couldn't make it out. Even the faintest silhouettes of what was in front of me. Only a rupture formed by darkness. I decided to observe. Decided to keep my distance, but I couldn't tell where the floating pieces were headed, nor could I see anything else. I decided to leave. Don't want to get any closer without knowing exactly what that is. The only way is back. I could ask the others what they know. Go to Moth. Talk to Moth. I asked him if he knew how to bypass the Tartarus rupture. I'm not the one to give directions, you see. Were I to do it, it would not be nearly as captivating. There are, however, others no less acquainted with forest surroundings. Perhaps they would be able to help you. I asked Moth if he knew anything about the letter I had found at the foothills. He told me to ask the others, as if I'm just supposed to know who the addresser is. Did you read it, assuming it was meant for you? But was this the place where you had left one before? Curious soul, I once spoke with the author face to face, yet the letter intent and contents elude me now. I cannot spare my attention for recalling them, as it is presently fixed upon you. Perhaps another acquaintance of yours may guide you closer to the truth, someone who, too, has long been at the forest. Mercy. Oh my god, why was that so hard to read? Ugh, burning out. Drying my mouth out reading all this. Oh. What would happen if I give him an apple? Alright. I'm gonna ask him about Tartarus. I asked Rob if he knew how to bypass the Tartarus rupture, and he said, hey, don't you still have some things to do before that? You could die there, you know? And that would be too soon for us to find a way out of the forest. You gotta have more passion for discovery. Fine, I admit it. I forgot to give you the key along with the map. First, answer me this. What did this fox say while crossing the road? What? I didn't understand the question. He said teasingly, come on, that's an easy one. Just think a little. How do you expect to deal with the other riddles later? Of course, way better than me at coming up with them. You know, I'm waiting. Do I really have to write this down in a separate journal section? Okay, I guess I do. Is this, the number of the letters? Let's see. Word. Is that really it? Is it just the numerical value of it? I asked Rob if he knew anything about the letter I had found at the foothills. He said, wow, a letter? If you didn't find it in my mailbox, it's none of my business. Hey, you got a wife? What if it's for her? You'd get locked up for opening the mail without her knowledge. That's how it works in my sweet home, Montana. He's no help, this old fool. Golly. Decided to ask him about Tartarus. I answered a word, because that's what I thought the sign the fox dropped earlier meant. Crossed his arms and said, keep your wits about you, boy. True tests never end. Here, take the key. Moving through the only way past the abyss. Don't forget to always go east. Go now. Why'd he get offended all of a sudden? Like him, I wasn't joking. He gave me a pocket compass for some reason. The north direction on it swapped with the east one. East is up. I decided to get some rest. I'm at an airport, flipping through a magazine from a nearby table. At first, it's filled with trivial ads and articles, but then the pages shift into morgue reports, police files, and portraits of missing persons. Their faces match the people around me. I don't want them to blame me for their death, so I leap up to warn them. But they're already beyond the boarding gate. The space stretches, and I find myself in a souvenir shop. In the center, a tiny installation catches my eye. A model of trees with an airplane resting on their crowns. The sign beneath it reads, not a real human being, not a real hero. Something shoves me. I hurtle through the empty cabin of a fallen plane, smash it in windshield, and plummet into the forest below. I decided to leave. Alright, back to Tartarus, I guess. Don't want to get any closer without knowing exactly what that is. The only way is back. Could ask the others what they know. Decided to go there. Really don't know what I've done to deserve this, but for the upteenth time, I was followed again. The thing tagged along in a peculiar manner. It moved only when I took a step. When I stopped, so it did it. After a while, I was able to see him clearly enough. Not a human, but very similar to one. His closed, dark eyelids made it seem as if he had no eyes at all. His cheeks were torn off and his thin, bony body was covered in cracks. He understood I had noticed him. Golly, I decided to walk backwards, never taking my eyes off him, thinking it was my best option. That is until I failed to notice a large pit behind me and fell straight in. I looked up, the creature was already at the edge, staring down at me in silence. I froze, he crawled down the wall and sat in front of me. I decided to talk to him. "You smoke?" I took a photo to see if he had something to say. He asked if I smoked. I decided to say no. "Good choice, but you aren't surviving anyway, so how about a smoke?" I was puzzled by the question, but said no. He sighed and spread his hands in disappointment. Then he pulled a pack out of nowhere and offered me a cigarette, implying that I might consider. I decided to take it. "Good choice, but okay. Well, now we're both surely gonna die. Let me know when you do. I first died 2 years ago, for example." I took it, he snapped his claws, and a spark came from them, lighting both his cigarette and mine. When we finished, he said what he said, climbed out of the pit, and even bothered to give me a hand. "It's free to go." Alright. Shared smoke, not too bad. I don't want to get any closer without knowing exactly what that is. Decided to take a photo. The hell is that supposed to be? A vast abyss rips through the air before the hills. It's difficult to keep looking at it. I'd call this place Tartarus. Let it know I recognize its might. Maybe then it will stop luring me in so persistently. I decided to look around. I looked around trying not to get close to the thing. That part of the forest felt not just deserted but tragically abandoned. Finally, one of the floating rocks near a distant gap in the hillside caught my eye. It had a set of dots carved on its surface. Decided to put the journal down. Right, what? I remember another place had dots, but I'm not too sure what the dots mean. I approached the gap. It was probably the only way past the abyss Rob had mentioned. Narrow cave leading down. All I had to do was hope his instructions were correct and follow them strictly. I decided to enter the cave. I had to move in one specific direction. In front of me were 4 almost identical openings positioned at each corner of an imaginary rhombus. I had to choose between the northern, eastern, southern, or western one. Decided to go up. Chose the upper one. The passage was so narrow I heard my bones creak, but at least it wasn't too long. I managed to crawl out, still unable to believe that nothing terrible had happened. I decided to leave. The path ahead was yellowish and twisted, disappearing into the swamp now and then. The mist concealed it, but I could still see glowing eyes peering through. Can't see if the water is too deep or safe to walk in, considering that stepping into swamps is usually a bad idea. Let me take a photo. In contrast to most parts of the forest, this one was unnervingly still, despite the obvious presence of the creatures watching me intently. I also noticed that the path had regained its ordinary earthy color. I decided to follow the path. I followed the path to its end. There was a large fallen tree neatly cut in half, with words carved into it. Might be worth writing them down on a folded paper sheet. I decided to put the journal down, devoting light to those who were born blind, eluding any harm or any sign of pleasure. For the existence was and is a foolish find, waiting gloomily its restful treasure. I'm gonna talk to the... Oh, God. I'm gonna talk to creatures, but they didn't feel like talking anymore and just attacked me. I'm going to lose my mind trying to predict whether I should say a word to anyone here or not. Okay, so, like... I got there. Leave. Okay, yeah. Go back here. Decided to go there. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't give out on me, light. Right. Approach the gap. Enter the cave. I'll go up. Take a photo. Follow the path to its end. Put the journal down. Yep. Walk through the water. Decided to go straight through the water. Hands grabbed my legs and clawed at them. I decided to keep moving. I kept moving. Got a few more scratches, but at least I could finally see where that swamp ended. Decided to leave. Okay, thank God. I think I need to heal up. Yum. Alright. It was getting colder, but more and more blooming flowers along with the muddy snow crunched under my feet. Their sweet scent was overpowered by a strong, earthy one, making me wince. I soon saw a clearing with a pond in the middle. Someone was bent over it, drinking. He wore light but dirty clothes. His right arm was blackened, the flesh torn away in places exposing the bone. When he noticed me, he immediately jumped up and rushed away, despite my attempts to call out that I wasn't dangerous. I can't fucking believe it. I met another human. He just decides to run away? What am I supposed to do here? Search for snowdrops? I decided to take a photo. Ooh, pretty place. Flowers here are all pale and faded. Despite their wilted look, they are disgustingly needy. What? Decided to look around more thoroughly. I carefully examined the ground and found a few mysteriously neat Polaroid photos. I placed them into a folded paper sheet. I decided to leave. I left. The trees around me slowly receded, but the fewer there were, the more roots covered the path, making it increasingly difficult to walk. When I noticed glowing among them, I thought I was seeing things. Unless the things were in fact seeing me. Under the roots, creatures were pinned to the ground, some of them to each other. They lay still, except for those suffocating and groaning. I decided to free a creature. I decided to free one of the creatures, but it shooed me away each time. I reached out my hand. I was not willing to lose any fingers that day, so I easily gave up on the good deed. I moved along, avoiding the roots as carefully as I could. Strange stone steles stood in. What? Strange stone steles stood in front of me, surrounding what appeared to be a soul on its knees, head down. I decided to take a photo. Photo didn't reveal anything new, but it's good to see a little more. I don't know why souls would choose to appear at that exact spot. Could it be the result of some kind of ritual? I decided to leave. I don't really mess with that kind of shit. Not about to be messing with other people's rituals, you know? I approached the place canopied by overhanging trees, which surrounded it on all sides. Their branches were covered in moss, trailing down to the ground and blocking the way ahead. Somehow it was too tough to tear or cut through, but I could still try to unravel it. I decided to put the journal down. Oh, nice little mini game. I like it. Nice. I cleared the way and was able to proceed. At first glance, the space seemed empty, and one thing stood out. A low but huge tree stump. A deer lay on top of it, struggling to free its antlers from the hanging moss. Can I free the deer? I decided to help, and praying it wouldn't impale me with them the moment it was free, carefully removed the moss from its antlers. The deer got up, exhausted, its gaze never leaving me. I decided to step away. I stepped away and it slowly walked off into the woods. Take a photo. Something reflected with the flash. I noticed a barely visible cavity in the side of the trunk and pulled out a music box. There was an inscription on the lid. On a somber melody, a heartbreak lullaby. Tall grass, the vigil keeps, the one to pacify. I decided to examine the stump. My eyes fell on the stump surface. There was another set of dots. Still don't know what their nature is. Decided to put the journal down. I decided to look around. I looked around and nothing. At the end of the canopied clearing, a tilted wooden sign with the word hideout scratched into it marked the location of a trapdoor. According to the map, it was an entrance to somewhere. When I opened it, I saw a stairway leading deep underground. Had I known it was this long, I would have looked for another way formed instead of dealing with all those steps. But here I am at the bottom, in the middle of a hallway that looks awfully similar to a school one. Now I understand why this place was drawn this way on the map. Some of the lights are still working. Oh, nice. I decided to check if there was anything useful in the classrooms, but the doors were all locked, for fuck's sake, and the one that wasn't slammed shut in my face the moment I tried to go through. What? Did I just read that? Hold on, I think I read that weird as fuck. But the doors were all locked, for fuck's sake, and the one that wasn't slammed shut in my face the moment I tried to go through. I noticed something pinned to the next door. An invitation to a model casting in Shanghai? There was a name on it? I decided to go down the hallway. As I walked down the hallway, the floor became increasingly covered with soil. I hoped the ceiling remained intact so it wouldn't collapse on me. I didn't reach the end. It was blocked by a living wall of trees growing side by side, crushing the interior with their presence. Among their roots, I found a few vials. I decided to keep checking the doors. I kept searching for another open door and to my surprise really found one. I decided to enter the classroom. I looked around, found a single piece of Polaroid paper on the desk. Somehow, the windows remain intact, resisting the tons of earth pressing against them. Only one is shattered. There's something on the blackboard, the desks, and the classroom in general appear to be empty except for a human silhouette facing the corner. I looked closer at the blackboard. Despite the presence of the chalk, dots were carved on it, instead arranged in a specific order. I am going to check the windows. I checked the window. There were even more steps leading down into the darkness. Oh, actually, never mind. I'm gonna approach the silhouette since it doesn't let me leave. Called up to the one standing in the corner, but no response followed. So I walked closer and touched his shoulder. Suddenly the skin started coming off from it. Then their whole arm just fell off. The organs fell out too. It took me a moment to realize it wasn't a person, but a damn anatomical model. I'm fed up with this force. After a while, the stairs ended abruptly, causing me to fall onto soft, slimy ground. I flinched and jumped back to my feet, as for a brief moment, my journal's reading light outlined its pulsing burgundy texture. Things escalate quickly at school. Things escalate quickly. School here? Not just that, but an underground one, from which I fell back to the surface. Is it even possible to get out? My life is all about fighting for the last chance now. I decided to look around. I couldn't see much. The surroundings resembled flesh, with the ground and trees covered in webs of twitching veins. I decided to let them be. Make sure not to touch them. The place is organic in the worst way possible. This can't be real. Why am I seeing this? I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. It's just a small island in the middle of the lake. The moment I convinced myself there was nothing worth my attention, I heard munching growing louder right next to me. I turned towards its source and instantly recognized LD's silhouette. He was gnawing on thick arteries near the shore. When I asked what the fuck he was doing, he just pointed behind me without stopping for a second. I ignored him, briefly seemed offended, but then clicked his tongue as if trying to imitate a laugh, and took off into the water. I walked closer to the shore to check if it was deep, and my foot stepped into a hole. There was something at the bottom, but I couldn't reach it because a web of intertwined vein-like things was blocking the way. I decided to use a less harmful method and to clear the way by shifting the veins' roots from their original position to new ones. I need some other form of stimulation right now, man. I can't just be reading this whole time. Like, I like these little minigame breaks because you can actually talk, like think something out, you know? It's a nice little break. I mean, I'm liking this game so far. It's just so text heavy, which I mean, I feel like I should have known because it's a text-based game. But the minigames are a nice break. What? Left, 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 right, left, right. What? Okay. Does the rhythm matter? I'm trying to write this down. I decided to leave. The water wasn't too deep. Mamma mia. After reaching the shore, I heard a prolonged howl and rushed towards it. A barn stood ahead, and its entrance a wolf growled, lunging at someone. Couldn't tell whether it was a human, a creature, or another animal. I decided to shoot the wolf. Even though I'm skilled enough in that moment, the darkness and the animal's speed worked against me. I missed. The wolf leaped away from its opponent, gave me a menacing glance, one eye damaged and half closed, and fled into the thicket. I walked up to the barn and finally saw that it had been fighting a creature which now limped back inside. I decided to look around. I looked around outside, nothing unusual there. I decided to enter the barn. As I approached the entrance, a stubborn, writhing individual began hopping in circles around my legs, refusing to let me pass. Damn. Can I, like, heed its warning? I picked up the nearest stone and threw it into the distance. The guy was incredibly fast in bringing him back. Not the stone, but a knot of bone, almost forcing me to take it. The barn was huge, and I didn't expect to see much without a photo. I decided to take a photo. I made sure to capture the whole barn. Now that it's slid up a bit, I can see it's full of creatures occupying particular hiding spots, either in small groups or alone. If all these things actually were human ones, I don't want to end up like that. I decided to leave. I'm gonna save my game real quick. This time, Rob was more enthusiastic about seeing me than usual. He said, "You're back. Could it be the forest actually sent me someone who'd last longer than a few days? We absolutely can find a way out, but you also absolutely have to find some clues on how to do that. Some trinkets. I mean, that part of the forest is way more dangerous. Surely you'll find them there. And while you're at it, it's just as important to search for apples for your old man." I love the number 5. Personally, he expects me to keep listening to him, though I must say, the 2 options, helping a lazy old-timer, mysterious demonic entities, neither one particularly appeals to me. I stare at my reflection, razor in hand. As I rinse off the shaving cream and lift my eyes, I find myself by a campfire, surrounded by people. They say they're making dinner one by one. They toss jewelry, clothes, money, and my wallet into the flames. Before I can react, something presses against my shoulder. I turn and see a skinless deer's head. I jump up and freeze. The campers are replaced by oozing flesh chunks fused to the ground. I'm back at the sink. The mirror is shattered. I touch my face. One cheek is skinned. The same deep wound stretched down my neck, chest, and palms. It hurts. Numbers flicker in the broken glass. I feel my body disintegrating. If I understand the numbers, it will be over. I try, but they blur into unreadable symbols. As the noise grows, I come apart. Alright, I'm making some progress, I think. I was lucky to spot a mine entrance behind the overgrown vegetation on a hillside. Its interior looked surprisingly neat, yet unstable. Crooked pillars barely supported the crumbling ceiling and walls. I ventured deeper, eager to find any answers, just as eager as I am now. Surely, I thought, places like this exist to conceal them. First dead end, marked by a pile of fallen rocks and soil, I tumbled across a cracked child's skull lying on the ground. I decided to leave it be. I decided to keep my distance from the skull. I didn't want mine to become another one decorating the place if something happened. I doubt this forest would ever let a soul rest. I decided to keep going deeper. I headed deeper into the mines but found nothing else. I decided to leave. Let me check how many Polaroids I have left. 17. Gotta be a bit more careful with them. Found myself in a part of the forest where moving silently was possible. Everything crackled and rustled under my weight. Withered leaves and grass resembled shed snake skin, and the crumbling trunks of the sycamore trees disintegrated at the slightest touch. I decided to try to not make much noise. I froze, worried about drawing unwanted attention, tried to figure out a way to search the place without making a sound, since I knew that excessive noise never boded well here. But my pause didn't last long. Something collapsed further ahead, forcing me to move closer. I decided to take a photo. This place is falling apart, and it's cold. The thing that had collapsed seemed to be one of the trees. The wind was dissolving bark remnants at the spot where it had happened. Among them was a faded Polaroid photo with only one word on it: here. I wasn't sure if it was a pointer. I couldn't see anything except piles of dead leaves. I decided to dig blindly. I blindly dug through the dead vegetation that formed the ground, but couldn't find anything. I need more light for this. I get it. It would be too easy if the flash worked at full capacity all the time. I looked around and found some supplies. Oh, nice. I decided to leave. The ground ended at a precipice, with a single fallen tree stretching across to a cliffside. Before I could reach the other side, the trunk shattered. Somehow, I suffered only minor bruises after falling such a height. The ravine where I landed was rugged and uneven, like a vast natural obstacle course. The rocky walls surrounding me at the start were too smooth and vertical to climb. One had a message stretched into its surface: persistence is the key. There were 3 paths ahead. I decided to go straight. I went straight. The path was twisted. Couldn't see much, and the ground constantly shifted, causing me to either trip over or bump into rocks. I decided to go right. Damn. I turned right. At first I thought the path was safe enough, but soon something attacked me from the shadows. Something small, stubborn, and idiotic. What the hell? I turned left. The path was overgrown with thorny vegetation, but I could still push through. For a moment I thought I saw the outline of a horse skull tangled in one of the bushes. I decided to go straight. I kept walking straight. The rocks were sharp and thin enough to pierce my legs, no matter how slowly I moved. Luckily, by that point, I had already grown accustomed to the pain. I decided to go straight. I continued, and after a few more bruises, finally came across something new. Pieces of paper half buried in the soil. They appeared to be fragments of a picture. I picked them up and placed them on the nearest flat surface. When I lifted my eyes, I saw that I was no longer surrounded by any obstacles. I decided to put the journal down. Oh, yeah. Alright, well, I guess I'll try to get the corner pieces going first, like usual. Boom. It's a picture of a key. The next moment, I found myself holding an actual metal key in my hand. I'm not trying to die. Let me eat an apple. I see no alternative way out of here except to follow one of the paths. I decided to leave. Is my reading light gone? The ground gradually gave way to a rocky surface. I carefully approached the cliff's edge. In the distance, I saw no city lights or any other sign of civilization. Only pale trails of moonlight in the air. The sky had no stars there. I flinched as a creature suddenly appeared right beside me. Low to the ground, its body was distorted and thin, almost lizard-like. While the face, oh my god, while the face partially retained sharp human features, though also disfigured, had a long, slashed looking, with teeth glinting visibly through the cuts, and long black hair. Even though they all had black eyes, blank eyes, I could still tell when they were looking at me, and this one was especially insistent. Oh, that don't look like no lizard. I think you should jump. Why not? Search for what you search in flight? He said I should jump. I refuse. Of course I didn't jump. I'm not that desperate yet. He then silently laid his head on the ground, staring into the distance. The whole time I stayed there. I decided to descend the cliff. I descended the cliff. Deep holes shredded its base. Their shapes a bit like human silhouettes. I couldn't squeeze through to check if anything useful was inside. As I stepped away, a shadow in front of the nearby trees sprang back before slowly approaching me. It was LD, staring at me expectantly. That's when I thought maybe he could help. In the end, I decided it wasn't worth it. He huffed and clawed into one of the cliff's holes without me saying anything. After checking a few more times, he walked up to me, showed off a handful of vials in front of my face, and rushed off. Fuck. I decided to look around. I looked around. Besides piles of dusty rocks, I came across 6 climbing carabiners scattered on the ground. 2 were interlocked, and one was engraved with the numbers 1989. Can't say the find helped me understand much. I decided to leave. I was approaching another lake marked at the map, but something small and clingy latched onto my leg, preventing me from getting to the shore. I spent a solid minute trying to shake it off. When I finally succeeded, it stopped moving at all. I could feel countless similar things creeping around me, the sound of their sighs, blended with the crashing of the waves. I decided to leave. Yeah, I'm not gonna spend any more time there. Shit, man. Just got out of a swamp that had a bunch of creatures in it. Another vast place that made me foolishly assume I had finally escaped, a valley devoid of trees. It was filled with rusty shipwrecks, but modern and old, covered with thick vegetation. The ground was dotted with large puddles, and my feet nearly got tangled in a fishing net lurking in one of them. I should have started counting long ago how many times my legs were the first to suck. Given the circumstances, I'm surprised I still have both. Pulling the net out doesn't really seem like such a bad idea. I pulled the net out. Something motionless was caught between the threads. When I took a closer look and realized it was an albatross, it crawled to the side and soon took off silently. Sailors consider the bird a good omen. I hesitate to hope for the best now. I don't want to stay here too long. What if all the water suddenly comes back? At this point, nothing would surprise me. I decided to look around. I looked around and came across a weathered barrel that smelled strongly of alcohol. The Polaroid photo on its lid read, "Just not on Friday." A detached front part of the ship caught my attention, in particular, so I climbed onto it. There was a surviving steering wheel that clicked when I spun it, and I couldn't help but associate it with those safes that have rotary combination locks. Well, what could possibly be the right combination for this thing? I searched the deck and found only a page torn from a logbook. I managed to make out only one thing through the faded ink. The date of the last entry, January 25th, among the scattered junk. I happened to find another page, this one dated May 21st, 1968. The date seems somewhat familiar, but I still can't recall the details, even though it wasn't that long ago. I decided to approach the wheel. Lefty loosey, right? Alright. Where am I? I'm right here. Despite the distance I'd covered, I pushed on, encouraged by a shimmering light ahead, still foolishly hoping to be greeted by city lights, and it never happened. Instead, I came across a clearing where hundreds of pale pillars soared into the sky. Something crunched under my feet. I wasn't expecting yet another pile of human bones, but it was just a frozen puddle, one of many. It wasn't cold there. It stopped, but the crunching continued. A flock of birds had collapsed on the ground, seemingly lifeless. Even before the fall, one albatross was among them, its feathers instantly enveloped by frost. I decided to take a photo. My ghost inside soon will be. If not for the dead birds scattered everywhere, this place would be almost peaceful. The ground looks as if the snow had just melted, leaving behind only sparse, lifeless vegetation. Okay, the end of the map. If I'm honest, I'd been through enough to be used to the ground vanishing under my feet. This time something was different. As I moved away from the place with the light pillars, I saw not only their glow fading, but everything around me. Even the sky disappearing. I turned around, some trees were still visible in the distance, their rustling barely audible. Where I stood, I heard nothing and made no sound. I decided to take a photo. I pressed the shutter button for a split second. I thought I saw faint outlines in front of me, yet to my surprise, for once the flash behaved as it was always supposed to, appearing and vanishing in an instant. So I couldn't be sure of what they were. Photos didn't help. All it showed was darkness. It is easier to convince myself it's just a dream. One will unfortunately remember for a long time, and this place just marks its end as my consciousness grows too tired to come up with more details of the forest surroundings, but it's still unable to wake up. I'm tired. I decided to leave. Couldn't risk venturing deeper into the darkness, so I decided to leave. Dead end. I walked around searching for anything useful and inadvertently startled a creature. It darted away from an ice formation it had been fiercely gnawing at. One looked as if it were made of unbreakable diamonds, a violent case inside. Soon after, I noticed a shadow or two slipping beyond my sight. And go back to Tartarus. Wait a minute. I approached the fire. When I returned, Rob said, "Say, you want to hear a story?" I immediately shook my head, saying that, unlike him, I wasn't bored at all. He answered, "Well, alright, not a big deal. Got a friend who always ready to listen to me. Here it is. Nice for sweeping the ash from the boxes, too." I looked at the object in his hand. It was a shaggy car window brush. I pointed that out and asked if it was his. "What do you mean, is it mine?" "Well, it wasn't always, of course." "Oh, I see. I see what you mean. Eagle eye, that's true. Long ago, it belonged to someone else. And someone escaped the forest and left it behind. And me too. Guess we can consider it another clue." "Great." Decided to talk to Rob. I asked Rob if he had any ideas about what I could do without my cam, since I had almost no Polaroid paper left. He nodded enthusiastically and said, "You won't believe this, buddy, but I've got that paper on me. Lots of it. Keep finding it all around the forest. If you want it, get me some treats first. I'm starving out here." I described the last place marked on the map. to Rob and asked if he knew anything about it. He said, "Is that so? Like a void? To think I marked it like that just because I didn't have the strength to go any further. Who knew there was literally nothing? You don't fall in there or anything, right? I won't be able to find a way out of the forest myself." Polaroid paper Rob gave me matched my camera perfectly. It wasn't supposed to work this way, but somehow it did. I gaze at the sky lying on my back. The sun almost blinds me. It's light now, and then disturbed only by the measured wavering of grass blades and stems crowned with blooming flowers. The silence is broken by a slow, deliberate munching. I look down and see a dark silhouette hunched over my ripped open belly, lapping up my liquefied entrails. As he looked up, his whole face dripping with blood, I recognize him. It's the little demon. I decided to leave. Small bag of paper scraps inside each, having a single letter. Might be a message. Place them into the folded paper sheet. But what are those words that keep appearing on the page beside it? I don't remember writing that. Whoa. An island lost in sanguine night, devoting light to those who were born blind, eluding any harm. When we see the world from up so high, branch snaps, I'm broken on the ground. Since then and for forever, I see sky. Alright, let's see if that stays the same. Yep. You know, I'm kind of convinced, yeah, this is just hell. I'm gonna go talk to Moth. He asked me to bring a letter to the place with the trails on the ground. Here, take this letter. I have a small favor to ask of you. When you find yourself particularly bored, would you mind delivering it to the place where trails mark the ground? Simply leave it in any of the pits. One day, you will understand the purpose behind it all, but do not read it. I haven't been back here in a minute. Put the letter in the pit. I decided I was stronger than that and put the letter in the pit without reading it, even though I really wanted to. Nothing happens, just as expected. But if Moth claims there's a reason for it, I guess I'll find out sooner or later. God, there's so much stuff to check out. Let me go talk to Rob again. I'm falling, desperately reaching for a light pillar among the countless ones surrounding me. They are all intangible, yet burn my palms, stripping the skin away and dragging the muscle along. When I finally collapse onto my back, I am deafened by the sound of shattering glass. The latter being my bones. I face red light, red strings, red photo paper. As I returned to the temple, I noticed a familiar silhouette standing under the front arch. It was Moth, facing the interior and slowly gesturing as if talking to someone. I was too far away to hear anything, not that I would have been able to anyway. He turned around and bowed to me slightly and headed away. I decided to ask him for details. I caught up to him and asked him what he was talking about with whoever it was, but he didn't tell me and just kept going. I wasn't too keen anyway. I decided to check the temple. I got 3 apples. I gave the old man 1. Alright, I'm kinda at the end of my rope. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. anything else new? Why not take the doll? Ooh. Uh-oh. Oh god. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna try one of the combinations or one of the rhythms that I wrote down a while ago. Let's see. Right. Hmm. What about okay. I think I made a mistake. I'll try again. After I picked the right combination, the cage sprang open. There were 2 wax candles. Okay. Now, I'm gonna go back to Rob. I'm gonna trade for Polaroid paper. I'm gonna get some sleep. Creature hunts me down persistently. I hide in the shadows as it passes. Inches away, it stops at times, exclaiming different words in a distorted, inhuman voice to lure me out. Compass, soul, stop, 14th, late. When I think it's far enough, I sprint the other way. With each step, my clothes flake away. I reach the dead forest. The rustling betrays me. Hidden rocks and roots make me stumble around all around. But I keep running. I lose sight of the creature ahead. I see a bridge leading to the house and hurry across. The creature leaps from beneath, grabbing me. The bridge collapses. Together we plunge into the abyss. I left. Hmm. Got 29 Polaroid paper. And see if maybe I can use it as the shipyard. When I returned, there a wild boar lunged at me out of the blue. I am gonna climb onto the shipwreck. Okay, I decided to climb onto the nearest shipwreck to keep it from reaching me, scratching my hand on the sharp edge of the broken hole. After a while, the boar ran off. Let's see. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 6. Oh. I guess it's not that. There's a simple yet interesting riddle awaiting you in the classroom. Solve it and you may obtain a certain item to bring to me. Yes, I'm aware there's but one open door. Perhaps try using a key next time. Alright, well... guess he wants to go to school? Came across a wooden bridge, barely visible from a distance because of the thick vegetation. Both sides of the river under it had dried up, only sharp boulders covered the bottom, so I thought the bridge was old and fragile. When I approached it, I heard a crying from under it. I decided to take a photo. Even after taking the photo, I saw no one around. I asked who was there, but the crying was so loud that it was probably impossible to hear me. Nothing changed. I decided to ignore it and hurried across the bridge. Luckily, it held my weight, allowing me to leave the crying behind. Thought it belonged to yet another creature, cunning but not convincing. As Moth advised, I tried to figure out which door could be opened with a key. Just as I approached it, it swung open on its own. A classroom that seemed dedicated to astronomy was behind it. The place was a mess, items scattered around chaotically, a vague projection, the source of which I couldn't identify, covered one wall in place of a blackboard. The projection displayed what was supposed to be a solar system model, but only the sun was present. Below it, an inscription said, "How many planets are there in the solar system?" Figured it was a riddle and noted it in the corresponding section of my journal. Are we counting Pluto? Because then I believe that would be 7 without Pluto. completely forgot about Uranus. Oh my god. So it's 8 planets. Let's go back to the forest and talk to Moth. Human virtues, patience is most great. Thank you. Okay. I don't know what else I need to do. What? Okay. I think that's it. I think that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for watching. Comment if you want to see this, or maybe if you want to see me tackle another narrative story or Alien Isolation or Dead Space or something. Definitely gonna be doing some Silent Hill content. Thank you.